pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. Recognitions. We're starting tonight with a few very special and important recognitions. So
we do.
Hand it off to you.
We do. Thank you. Yes. So week of May 6th to May 10th is National Teachers Week, Teacher Appreciation Week. National Teacher Appreciation Day, also known as National Teacher Day, is always observed on the Tuesday of the first full week in May. And this day is part of Teacher Appreciation Week, which is the first full week of May each year. The National Education Association describes National Teacher Day as a day for honoring teachers and recognizing the lasting contributions they make to our lives. I'll cut to the chase. We don't do our work without our teachers. They are the heart of everything we do in the classrooms. And we have an amazing team of teachers from our littlest learners at TCLC all the way through the high school. We're celebrating one in particular for an incredible achievement tonight, but I know Danielle's here for GOSO. Are you here to represent the MEA?
I am.
You are? Okay. Do you have anybody else, or you're kind of flying solo tonight, huh?
Flying solo.
You are. Well, thank you for coming. Danielle's a special educator at Daniel Hand High School, and you have a prepared speech, correct?
I knew you were funny.
Danielle is quick-witted and quick, so yes. But thank you for coming tonight. I don't think it really goes beyond saying, the impact that our teachers have in the classroom, the professionalism. We ask our teachers to do some incredibly innovative and progressive work with our kids, and they're always there to answer the call. When I got here in March of 2012, I think of the growth that we tried to revision the district, the work we've done, and the teachers have done incredible work at preparing our kids for the world they're going to enter when they graduate. And it is a remarkable, humbling group of continuous learners committed to their profession, and certainly makes me proud to be part of the team. So thank you for coming on behalf of the MEA, and very much appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay.
Moving on
To National Nurses Week.
This is always a fun one. Our nurses are fun. We have a great group. They're a little rowdy in the back row, so they're happy for a reason. Yeah.
That's why we're back here.
But you're all introducing yourselves. You don't get to hide in the shadows. Okay. So National Nurses Week is this week. It's celebrated annually on May 6th to raise awareness of the important role that nurses play in society. It's remarkable. I was at our high school talking to a couple of our students who are seniors, and I have a rule: I don't ask seniors about college ever. I don't ask. You may want to tell. I don't ask. Okay, because that's all they hear about. But I had 2 or 3 seniors, very, very high achieving, great students, and they're pursuing nursing, and they're very excited about it. And it's a very honored profession. It marks the beginning of National Nurses Week this week, which ends on May 12th, which is the birthday of who?
Florence
There
Nightingale.
you go. The English nurse who became the founder of professional nursing, especially during her pioneering work in the mid-1800s. Her habits of making rounds at night, she became known as the lady with the lamp. We don't carry lamps, but we have huge big smiles and warm personalities. Our nurses are there for bumps and bruises and scrapes, sometimes emotional therapy, right? A little bit of everything from students and staff. Sometimes I check in too.
Parents.
Yes.
Sorry.
Mm-hmm. Yes, indeed. But if you could all just please stand up for a second, introduce yourself, the school you work for.
I'm Laura Cutler, and I work at Jeffrey School. Deshana Kittle, Town Campus.
Karen Owen Polson.
Wendy Flynn, Island Avenue.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
And I guess just on behalf of the board, I think it's only right that the two professions, Teacher Appreciation Week and Nursing Week, happen at the same time every year. I can't think of 2 more noble, giving, loving, nurturing professions, and we're also grateful for all that you do. So thank you.
Thank you.
I get some great emails and phone calls every once in a while, parents just thanking me for, typically it's something a teacher did and so forth, and I share those instantly. I don't get a chance to share publicly because they're usually, private, the message that I get from the way our nurses have handled the situation. And they're sensitive matters usually, but I do get those calls. Karen openly shares some wonderful stories with me. I can't open the attachment, it's driving me crazy. Karen shared another great one with me. But there are times that a school nurse can turn not only the day, the entire school year around for a student. Just being that person, and we all need that person in school, and especially developmentally as kids get to a certain age, it gets beyond mom and dad, and sometimes it's a school nurse, it's one of our teachers, it's a paraprofessional, it's one of the administrators. So the team is great. 2 huge members we're celebrating tonight, and thank you all for coming.
Thank you. We have, CAS stands for Connecticut Association of Schools.
Yeah.
Elementary Exemplary Educator Award tonight.
This is a remarkable achievement, a remarkable recognition, and so incredibly well deserved. We have our friend who knows Madison well, Jill. You may recognize the last name. This is Jill Hale. We all know the Hale family, and Jill, come on up, Jill. And Jill is representative.
You didn't
from
have
the
to come with me. I don't
Association
do
of Schools.
it by
Adrian, you have to come up too. Yes, you have to. Yes.
We're just going to stand up.
Okay.
Yes. There you go. So we have had the great honor of having 2 teachers in my tenure recognized for this award. And this is not an easy process. This is an incredibly picky, selective process. And it is something that is just an honor for the entire state of Connecticut to be the Elementary Exemplary Educator of the Year. It's just a testament. I have, on the receiving end as a parent, also through observing her work, I have known Adrian's work in the classroom now for the better part of 4 or 5 years. She was with us for a while, and she took a break because she had 3 beautiful children right there that she had. And when you guys were independent and on your way and ready to go to school, we got mom back, okay? And then 20 kids every year get to benefit from that. But Jill, can I give you the floor and you can give a little background on the award?
No, that would be terrific. I am the Assistant Executive Director for the Connecticut Association of Schools. And this award is given annually, but it has 3 criteria, and I'm just going to read them. It's for demonstrating excellence in education, including meeting the needs of students with a variety of instructional techniques, for demonstrating involvement with students, staff, parents in and out of the classroom, and demonstrating leadership within the profession, contributing to the team, the school, and the community. It's pretty tough to get this award, and we vet all of the applications that come through. But for you probably don't know this, but your principal wrote that you are the epitome of a teacher demonstrating true excellence in education each and every school day. And then Becky Frost goes on to describe that your classroom is a place where the students wish to be, and the students in your care have choice built into everything that they do. You're described as masterful in knowing how to be flexible in your teaching so that you meet the needs of each of the students within the class. This may include additional conferencing, meeting with colleagues to brainstorm ways in which you support the students, seeking ideas from other faculty members. You're considered to be an expert in differentiation, which that's quite a big feat to do that. And this expertise, coupled with your true belief in the growth mindset, enables you to grow each of your students in all of the areas that they need to grow in. In addition to all this work, Mrs. Bransfield has demonstrated outstanding leadership within the profession, which is something that I really like to see. Whether it be working with your grade level team, serving on school and district committees, you consistently seek to increase your understanding of teaching and learning, and to increase your repertoire of teaching strategies, beliefs, and most importantly, give back to the profession. So, I know you did well through the interview process too. So, Cass is very proud to give you this award. And Becky, you come on over and do this. And we all get to take a picture.
We'll do a couple of pictures. Yeah, I just have a couple things to say, if I may. Your expertise in literacy is well known throughout the district. Your colleagues look to you. The work you have done with individual students Those are parent phone calls that I've happily received and gotten many of them. So for Adrian, she came with the reputation, she lived the reputation. What Jill mentioned was something that folks from the outside looking in might not see. The whole entire body of literature around the concept of the growth mindset. I've been in your classroom. You are an absolute master at the way you use language with children. It is, I'd love to say it's a gift, but it is a well-honed practice. You have worked at this over time. And the belief systems, which is the foundation of all good teaching, is so deeply embedded in everything you do. Children know they can succeed. You send them messages explicitly, implicitly, in any which way you can. And that growth mindset makes kids accomplish things that they thought were impossible before that. So you couple that with an incredible repertoire of teaching. Adrian is a remarkable practitioner, so we are very fortunate to have you on the team. Appreciate that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Came through in the interview. You should know the application process came through, letters of recommendations, and then she had to sit in an interview. Don't go away. She had to sit in an interview process, right? So, well done. Thank you.
I won't put you on the spot. You don't have to say anything.
Oh, come on.
Take some pictures. Come on.
Thank you. It's an honor. Thank you.
Where do you want to be? Thank you.
We usually just go right. If we can go right to the middle.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you.
Right here.
Make sure he does it right.
Jill.
I was hoping our mics was
Just the iPhone.
Thank you so much.
Congratulations.
Yeah, family picture. Guys, get the paper. Come on, don't roll the eyes.
Don't forget about Mom and Dad. Mom and Friday. We're loving She really is. We knew she was good. It's the best part.
We know how good she is.
Now, Adrian, all of your kids are going to work hard to make you cry. In a good way. You are. You'll make the NFL. Nice to meet you.
Thank you.
Nice meeting you. Congratulations.
Italian mom's good.
Oh, I know.
Congratulations.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for coming.
You're amazing.
Love it. I can love that all day.
Thank you so much.
Okay. Public participation. Is there any member of the public that would like to speak?
Tough act to follow.
Tough act to follow. Well, with that not said, student rep, we've missed you guys. Student representatives report. You took a couple months off.
A couple months.
Well, a couple weeks. Sorry, a couple meetings. Couple meetings. We meet twice a month.
Jackie's getting the Jackie's coming back.
Sassy.
Getting defensive. Yeah, I like that.
I like the sass. All right, go ahead. Tell me, what's new?
Okay, so we recently had a diversity assembly. It was the first time thing that was really well done and put on by the Diversity Club. And it was all about how we can use certain words and be kind to others. And it had a lot of positive feedback, and I thought it was really good. May 1st was
Just 1 second. I happen to see it too.
Oh, you did?
My expectations, I didn't know what to expect, quite honestly. Can you explain a little bit about the background of maybe this? I know that the middle school teacher, for example, she gave some great examples.
Yeah,
Can you
she
tell
was
more
the
about
main
this?
speaker.
Yeah.
I can't remember her name.
I know, it's escaping me too. I know.
But
Speaker.
she was talking about her. Misha.
That's it. Thank you.
Yeah, she was talking about her experiences as a Muslim here in America, and like how there were certain people that viewed her in like a very negative way. I thought it was really empowering the way that she spoke and talked about the issue.
She gives great little nuggets of advice, I thought, too, you know, on checking your own biases and so forth. Her best friend is Jewish, and she talked about that story. It was remarkable.
Yeah, so.
And it was an assembly, I'm sorry, for the whole school?
Yes, for the whole high school, yes.
Yeah.
Great.
So May 1st was decision day for seniors, so seniors figured that out. All right, we're having our final spring band concert at 7:30. Do you know the date for that?
Wednesday, May 15th.
Wednesday, May 15th. And then art show also at 6:30 on the same day. And then we're also having I'm actually directing this with some others. We're doing a student-run star performance that we're going to be doing on nicotine addiction. So that's coming up on May 17th.
And if I may too, Ryan, the assembly was student-run. That diversity assembly, that speaker was Mr. Saiteri.
Yeah, that was fully run by the Diversity Club.
It was, yeah.
All students.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
So we are in the last half of our last trimester here, so super exciting.
You have one more year to go, too.
Yeah, okay. Last week was junior prom. So we had a junior prom pre-meeting about opioid addiction, and one of our teachers spoke about her personal experience with her son and his opioid addiction. And then we talked and watched a bit of a documentary called Chasing the Dragon about further opioid addiction. And then we had a really successful junior prom. It was a lot of fun and uneventful in a good way.
Yes, that's absolutely right.
Thanks for that.
Yeah.
And next meeting, our new Board of Ed student representative, who will be replacing our Ryan here, will be announced. So that selection process is going on.
Wonderful.
Yeah, that's it.
Excellent.
Senior prom is
Senior.
June 1st.
June 1st?
June 1st.
June 1st, yeah.
All right.
There you go.
Coming up. Great, thank you. Superintendent's report.
So just a brief update on the reconfiguration. So as I had said at the last meeting, this last summer and the fall was heavily spent on operations and logistics. The middle of the year was spent a great deal on staffing, though we do have some isolated staffing movements. And for the last month and continuing through the end of the year, it is kids and parents. That's where our focus is. We've had a lot of events. We have principals visiting their new students for next year, students visiting their new schools. We have ice cream socials coming up. We have a great deal. It's all on the website under the reconfiguration tab. And so far, we have gotten tremendous feedback overall from the presentations. Some great questions. Mr. Henderson, as only he can do, just did a great job of seeking out what types of questions may be there before he even presents, which was a great strategy. Rather than, here's what you should know, he kind of approached it from, what do you want to know? And he was able to embed that into a lot of his work with kids and parents. So we are right on course, as we said. Art is instrumental behind Art Cycles here. All the technology moves are upcoming over the summer. Bill McMinn, all the furniture moves that we have. Staffing assignments are locked in, and folks have already had team building activities and are ready for their new schools. And as we know, our building administrators are working across 2 schools right now for some of them, for 3 in particular. And but they see some light in the tunnel. So we're getting there. We're definitely getting there. Any questions, any comments? Strategic plan. So we had made a promise that annually we would do a review, a comprehensive review of our strategic plan, and we have a rhythm and a cadence to the measures and so forth. We have 2, which we call our stakeholder outcome measures, and those have to do with parents and students. And one of those is an alumni study, which we just formulated the final questions for. And the other is a parent satisfaction survey, which was just finished last Wednesday as well. And we're looking to launch those and have those done by the end of the year. It's a pretty quick turnaround on those. We've been working with a company along the way for that. And those will be some pretty good measures we'll look at this summer as a part of the overall view of the strategic plan. So I just want to give the board an update on that. We are alternating that with community feedback surveys, focus group surveys, which our community's got pretty peppered this year. It's getting another survey on the facility study. But this is targeted to alumni and to current parents. Any questions on that?
None to the senior class as requested way back?
Yeah, it's part of the plan, but it's not this year. Yep. So yeah, we have a schedule, Violet, of every other year. We just don't do everything every year, so it's every other year. But that's on the list. The Chartwell's amendment, amendment number 3, Art had provided a document for me to forward to the board, and that's our food services agreement. So I'm going to ask Art to come up to the table and just speak to that if he can.
I actually thought everybody was here to hear about the food service program.
Oh, well, if you brought the food, they would have stayed.
Maybe.
Oh my gosh.
No samples?
We can arrange that. The food service coming off of the National School Lunch Program over the past several years has been a very interesting and exciting project. I know it's one of my 3 favorite areas: food, transportation, and technology. As I had indicated in the write-up that I sent out, the way the contracts are generally structured is it's a 1-year agreement with up to 4 one-year renewals are optional. So the total term is generally a 5-year term. That was a requirement under the National School Lunch Program. We're no longer under the National School Lunch Program, but we've tried to keep the same format and everything very consistent. So I did actually, in the handout that I had provided, I had actually made an error in a typographical error in one place here. I had said that we had gone out for an RFP in April of 2014. That was while we were on the National School Lunch Program. That's true. And then I said that the first year of the agreement that resulted, I accidentally said 15-16, it was 14-15. So the last 2 years that we were on the National School Lunch Program was under this original contract that was for the 14-15 school year and 15-16. Sounds like a funny detail to focus on, but one of the things I wanted to point out and make clear, I want to make sure that nobody doesn't understand. We're keeping this as consistent as we possibly can. And one of the things that the main contracts always have, or in our history, we've always taken an investment opportunity, which these big food service management companies like Chartwell's, or all of them, when they bid on a proposal, when they make a proposal, they offer some dollar amount that they're willing to provide the money for upfront investment in equipment, serving line, different things like that, can add up to easily $100,000 or more. And what happens is over that 5-year term of the agreement, it gets charged back to the program. So the program is paying for it, they're not giving it to you, but it's a straight line depreciation over 5 years. They complicate it in many different ways, depending on how they choose to make their proposal. Our agreement had $80,000 that would be charged back to the program over 5 years. And Chartwell's also offered $25,000 that they would make in improvements that they would also expense off of the food service program at their expense, $5,000 a year. So in each of these years, we have a $16,000 expense to the food service program, and Chartwell's was also writing off a $5,000 expense each year of 5 years. So the reason I'm pointing out the 2014-15 and 15-16 as the original time, that was the start. The 14-15 year was the start of the 5-year depreciation. And when we came off the program and renegotiated the contract, we were already completing 2 years of the original contract. So we chose, I thought we were making it a 3-year agreement. In reality, I made a mistake at that point. Negotiated an agreement that was going to have 3 additional 1 years. I was trying to keep it with the same original length. Instead, we made a mistake and our depreciation will end this June. So we finished a 5-year depreciation of the original investment that they made. So the only thing that's a little different about this, and it's just, you're allowed to change some of these things mutually, as long as you're doing this mutually and in writing. What we're doing is asking to agree to a 1-year extension on this program, but to allow us to expense $16,000 again this year and $5,000 from Chartwell's, just as an exact extension of what we were doing. And what we intend to do with that money is purchase a double convection oven for the high school for additional pizzas and other baking. And there's a big vegetable steamer, commercial vegetable steamer for Polson. And then just a few assorted other things. But it's $21,000 that would be expensed, 16 to the food service program, 5 to Chartwell's. So it's exactly consistent with the amount we've been charging. And the reason that I want to do it is, well, we need the equipment. The other thing is that I think to make it reasonable, we've been really delighted with the performance of the program. The last year that we were on the National School Lunch Program, we lost almost $90,000, and that was when we took about $150,000 between reimbursements and commodity foods. So when we went off the program for the first time in 16-17, I'm sorry, 16-17 was the first year off, we lost about the same amount without taking any money from the government. The next year, 17-18, we lost $48,000, and naturally we didn't get any more reimbursements or commodities. This year, we are on track to lose money, but hopefully approximately $30,000 is what the projection is. And in all honesty, June is always kind of it's a bit of a guessing game. Sometimes June, and like last year, because it was such a long June with all the snow days we had almost a normal full month, and we had almost a regular month's worth of revenue. Most of the time when it's a 2-week month, there's exams for 3/4 of the high school. Field days, all that stuff. We end up, sometimes June's a big loser for us, but we are projecting approximately $30,000 loss. So we've seen steady progression in the financial performance, and I did not want to suppress, and as much as we want the equipment also, I didn't want to have no depreciation expense for the year-over-year comparison, so I wanted to keep that expense constant, and we'll just continue. I'm sure we'll renegotiate hopefully a new 5-year agreement the next time around. But certainly with all the things that are going on with the redistricting and all the changes we're making, I don't think we want to start ripping out, walk-in refrigerators and things like that. I think we're going to keep it as simple as possible. So we just wanted to opt for the 1-year additional. So that was a lot of words to explain away this timing thing. The cost of the program, the fees for Chartwell's, we have a fixed portion of the fee, and then we have a variable portion which is computed as cents per meal, and that was outlined in the addendum. We've got it's an $85,683 fixed cost for the year, and then it's a 5.42 pennies per meal sold, and that's done by a calculation that's defined in the agreement. It takes all of the revenue and it divides it by what is essentially the meal equivalent factor. It's about approximately an average price of a meal. So they get an approximate meal count that would be equivalent to. And that turns out to be about $16,000 a year. So the whole cost of the contract is around $100,000 to Chartwell's fees.
Yeah.
So I'd be happy to answer any questions. Hopefully I didn't create more than you started with.
There's an action item later on to approve this amendment. This is a rather customary every year.
It is a very routine thing, unless you're unhappy with the food. How you guys like the food? All right.
I like it.
A ringing endorsement. So.
Right? The local universities use travel.
Yes, many do. Hospitals also. Not that hospital food is the thing you want to necessarily
That's not quite your
raise as your benchmark. Well, Chartwell's is a division of the Compass Group, and Compass has many different divisions, including the university division. They also have Flick, which is a corporate catering division. They are probably the biggest of the food service industry.
So are just so I'm clear, is there an additional appropriation we're asking for?
No.
No,
No,
so
this is
those
funded by the
additional-
program.
Okay.
Right, it's
Okay.
funded by the program, and we do have a stop-loss guarantee, which is consistent, which has been every year,
Okay.
that we have, if our operating loss were to be more than $60,000, Chartwells will take from their fees and limit our loss to $60,000. And again, that's, we only cover the hourly labor of our employees. All of the food service workers are our employees, with the exception of Joe Baracco, who's the dining services director, the chef here, and also there's a half-time bookkeeper. But other than that, they're all Madison Public Schools employees. They are the maids union folks that we have a contract with. And those employees, it covers their hourly, their stipends, and things like that. It does not cover their medical benefits.
And even with added equipment?
The added equipment is going to keep our depreciation expense consistent from
Okay.
prior years. So
Okay.
it's same as the year before.
I get it now. Thank you. Any other questions?
Thanks, Art.
Thanks so much.
Two other quick matters. Last Thursday night, we had an incredible crowd show up at Country School. We had about 200 people. We had 220 seats set up, and I didn't see any empty seats. So it's called Invasion of Privacy. I shared that a couple of times that you notify with the board. I was asked to do an intro along with Scott Cocker from Youth and Family Services and Dr. Claudia Califano on the intersection between technology and really child development, social and emotional, sexual development of our children, and how that's being impacted by technology. It was sobering, to say the least, but it was also empowering. It was a good conversation around what we can do, and Dr. Califano and Beth Coyne from the Country School talked about parent power, how we don't exercise it enough. And so we did record it. Steve Hughes from the board had recorded it, and we're trying to edit it for public consumption because it was raw and very accurate. So we want to make sure for cable access that we do some edits, and we'll be doing that and hopefully get it up on cable access. So I don't know if you heard about it, but it was well attended by a lot of our parents and well received.
I heard a lot of people who want to see it, so I'm glad it's going to be online.
Actually, the request was to do that, and the other request was to completely just rewind and repeat the presentation again, live.
Yeah, that'd be great.
So we talked about doing that again, if not this year, which is getting tight on time, but in the fall.
It's
Yeah.
stuff us parents cannot.
Yeah, there was a lot of jaws hanging when we were done.
Yeah.
They could do what? Yeah.
It's overwhelming.
So, and the last piece, Marcy Raccio from the high school, who is in the CTE department, does a class called On Your Own, which is, you guys ever take On Your Own? No? No?
All the Stein boys will be taking it.
They took, yeah, they need to, yeah. I wish I took it. But we did interviews, which we had a partnership with Junior Achievement, and I love the Junior Achievement work, and we did interviews. About 15 or 20 professionals from the community through Junior Achievement came in, and we conducted incredibly formal interviews. They had to produce their resumes, they had to produce their cover letters, and it was a great experience for the kids, and some of the professionals had some incredible comments as far as, I wish I'd learned this when I was 18 and 17 years old. And, I never used Algebra 2 in my life, but I definitely use these skills. So, but it was a great experience. I just wanted to note that. Great work by Marcy. And that's it.
Board member comments.
Yeah, has there been any update on the Cuba trip? What's going, what?
Comment on that too. I'm glad you said that.
Okay.
Great minds.
Given, great mind. Given what's going on currently with the potential increase in the degree of sanctions?
There is none, but I can get one.
I just wondered if they're considering having to.
When I spoke with them
Either delay the
after the
trip or
meeting, they were
cancel it.
saying they were having a hard time getting their visas, so it might be that they have to delay because of that.
Well,
Be interesting
we
to
may
know.
deny visas.
Yeah, yeah.
I will certainly.
Just to piggyback on your comment, I also wanted to make sure, because I left a little earlier last time, that this isn't authorized by the board. And I think the community members, or the members in the community need to know this is not authorized by us. So, I'm glad to hear that There's some challenges because I'm not convinced it's the right choice to make to go there. So I'm glad you brought it up. Thank you.
Yeah, were you here for their presentation?
I was,
Yeah.
and it was kind of, well, you know, it's always nice to get grants and stuff, but, you know, you can't glamorize Cuba or Venezuela or some of our other countries. So I just want, you know, our community members to realize this is not authorized by the board. You know, we didn't vote on it, we didn't necessarily agree, you know, to this project, but, you know, they certainly can take their vacation in the summer and do what they think is important and bring it back to our students' classrooms. I mean, that's always nice. But just to clarify that, thanks, Kurt. That's a good question.
And then I had a question for Ryan. Has a diversity club had a speaker, or is it considering a speaker to address what seems to be an increasing amount of anti-Semitism globally?
They talked about that in the presentation.
Yeah.
They were talking about in general microaggressions and like unconscious bias mostly, ways you not realizing you're degrading someone else, and overall just being aware of who else is in the room and that you don't necessarily know where they're coming from. It didn't specifically address anti-Semitism or specifically address most issues. She was our presenter was talking specifically about her experiences of post 9/11 Muslim American. And then she talked about some other things, but
I'd say a couple things. You nailed it. It was definitely not specific to any one type of bias, though it was discussed, anti-Semitism was discussed. And the concept of microaggressions was introduced to the students. But number two, I could resend, before you were on the board, I could resend to the board a very comprehensive K through 12 audit we did of our practices, which we conducted after Amity High School had gone through some pretty tricky times there back in the fall. And we did a whole K-12 view on how we cover Holocaust education and anti-Semitism and so forth. So I can resend that.
That presentation's coming up at Polson too.
So some of the topics like microaggressions are things that were covered in that book, the coddling.
Yeah, there was,
Yeah.
Yeah, there was.
That's a great read, by the way.
Thank you.
And it seems to me like I've always been on the board.
All those meetings. Brian, I think you mentioned something that was really important, and it's not specific to any group of people, but the kindness theme. It's just being kind. It doesn't really matter what group we're talking or associating any of these, you know, diverse
Yeah, it was a very
qualities.
positive message. And it was also just very serious. Like, you heard her story, and like, I don't
Makes you
know,
think.
I think most of the kids understood that like you shouldn't be making comments that are any
That are
offensive
unkind.
or like,
Exactly. I think
unkind
that's-
towards someone.
That's really important.
I agree.
Kirk, next 2 weeks, I think, 2 weeks, Judith Altman is coming to Polson for the 10th time. Judith is a Holocaust survivor, and she tells her story to all the students. She was there when Jackie and Ryan were there, and it is incredibly moving and incredibly empowering, and she has a very strong message of love and kindness. That is her overall message. She doesn't harbor 1 ounce of bitterness, so it's a very compelling story. But that's included, actually. I'll resend that to the board so you can get that.
Okay, great, thanks.
So important. Any other board member comments? Committee reports, curriculum and student development.
Nothing new to report.
Meeting tomorrow.
Yes.
Communications.
Yep, the communications committee met tonight, went over what we've accomplished to date with our outreach and communications, planned for some summer work that we will get ready for outreach over the summer and into the fall. We also plan on getting the word out more for the May 16th public forum, as well as more information about the Brown Playground. End of report.
Facilities committee has not met. No report.
No report.
Finance committee.
We have not met.
Personnel committee. No report. Tom reported to me. There's no report. End of report. Policy committee.
Beginning of report. So you have 2 third readings on the agenda tonight. We've heard about them quite a bit. No changes or requests for changes since last we spoke, so we will be voting on those later. I'm going to kick it to Tom and then Kirk for the remainder of the policies that we see here. I'm doing this to surprise Kirk mostly. So first let's talk about 6090.1, which is home visits by social workers, which the policy committee moved forward to the board unanimously at our last meeting.
So this was something that was requested by Dr. Patalia through her conversations with our special education attorney as well. We did this twice.
We've seen this a few times because we asked for a few wording changes.
Yeah, some wording changes. Those are all included in this version. Yeah, and it was to, this is something that is not a normal practice. We want to make sure we codify in policy the boundaries by which we would do this. We do have our ESS staff at the Polson and Hand level are much more active in this with the demographic that they serve. But it could be part of a programmatic element that we're delivering a service perhaps. So this policy covers and directs staff in their actions at the home visit level.
Thanks, Tom. And the remainder of items that you see here for first reading, so that will include, I'll read them all. Policy 3090, financial records and reports. Policy 3110, paying for goods and services, which I will highlight here is the first reading of a proposed removal, different than all the rest. Policy 3140, line item transfers, and policy 9540.8, voting method. So these all originated from finance as topics that we wanted to look at as a block. We discussed them in finance, had a robust discussion there about many aspects of the policies, brought them to policy, and I think moved them forward largely as they had been adjusted from that finance meeting. So I don't know, Kirk, you would like to add to any of those add any specifics to that?
Just a couple of quick points, Greg. With respect to bills payable, you know, we get in each of our packets we have a listing of a number of bills where the services have been budgeted, the services or goods have already been purchased, and then after Stacy has written the checks, she has to sit on the checks until we meet and agree to send them out. And there have been instances where in fact we've been charged late fees because the checks have been held beyond the appointed time, if appointed is a correct word. And so my view is that, you know, given all the checks that are in place for assuring that it is a budgeted expense, that the good or service has actually been provided, and the audits that are in place, it just seems silly to me for us to have this list of bills that are where the checks have been written that we have to approve. And so I think if the service has been provided, the check's been written, there's no reason for the Board of Education to have to say, yeah, it's okay to mail the check. And so for that reason, I would argue to just take that out of our, off of our action items. And then the second area was that relate,
Can
yes?
I just ask you about that? Is there a percentage of an amount that you were thinking, or anything
No.
that's, okay.
When we come to line item transfers, but not to the bills payable, yeah, because they've already been, the checks have already been written.
We've already received the services.
We got the service.
Yes.
We're gonna-
Or the good, yeah.
Or the
we
good,
got
so
the
we're
good
gonna pay the bill.
or the
Yes.
service, yeah.
Okay.
And then with respect to line item transfers, Violet, there.
That's what I was jumping to.
Yeah. There, the thought was that rather than have to look at every line item transfer, there should be some either absolute dollar amount or percentage amount that maybe is of sufficient magnitude that it simply be highlighted for our attention. But we don't need to see every single line item transfer that takes place.
Thank you.
I believe the amount is 10,000
Yep.
Proposed
yeah,
amount.
proposed
Yeah.
in the language of 3140.
Okay. Yep.
And you can see all those changes listed throughout what you've received. So please check them out. We will meet again later this month, and we'll be happy to hear any feedback on any of those. before we proceed? End of report.
Learn liaison, there is no report. Tri-board working group for Board of Education facilities.
The tri-board met on Wednesday last, as is our per our weekly schedule. We looked at a site feasibility study for the options that we are considering moving forward to the facilities committee for consideration, to the tri-board meeting for consideration, and all of the options passed from the standpoint of site feasibility, which is good. We also are continuing to work with Colliers on assessing what the cost of the various options will be, and Stacy has now joined that work and working with bond counsel to determine what the bonding implications for the various options are and what the implications are for the mill rate or the property tax rate of the various options that the public will be asked to consider. The first presentation of those will be made this Friday at a PRC meeting, and then subsequently, as Emily mentioned in her report, we're hosting a public forum on the 16th at Brown at 7, where we hope to have a very broad audience, broad defined as diverse across the community from the standpoint of parent, non-parent, my age group versus younger people, and get appropriate feedback. And then finally, we've contracted, as Tom suggested, with Great Blue to do a survey. They have given us a draft of their questions. Those will be better defined after the meetings on both the 10th and the 16th, at which Great Blue will be in attendance. And then there will be a survey of the public by phone with the deliverable date of mid-June.
And tomorrow, I got a sneak preview. Stacy's going to share the projections based on the cash flows of the different options. Yeah. Very comprehensive, very impressive presentation she'll have. And Bill Lindsay, our bond counsel, will join us.
Yeah, she mentioned that. Yeah. That's good.
That's good. Yeah, great.
End of report.
Thank you. Audience response. I need a motion to approve the consent agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Sorry. Actually, you gotta just write it. Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion passes. I need a motion to approve the minutes of the April 23rd, 2019 Board of Education meeting.
So moved.
Second. Discussion? Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion carries. I need a motion to approve the classroom observation policy.
Why not?
It does not need a second because it came out of committee. Discussion?
Why not?
Why not? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion carries. Action item 2, approve the policy review process policy. So moved. Doesn't need a second. Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion carries. I need a motion to approve the e-waste removal list, which is here if anybody would like to see it.
And Art just so happens to be here. Have any
So
questions?
we'll wait for discussion.
So moved.
Greg?
Second.
Violet? Discussion?
How do we dispose that?
There's a state contracted vendor. I'm embarrassed to say the name of the vendor escapes me right now, but it is a state contract that we use. They dispose of it either by wiping it clean and reselling it, or by appropriately, environmentally correctly disposing of them. So for the most part, that list, at this point in the year, that list is stuff that was kind of accumulated during the year. Every summer we have a big push where we install new equipment over the summer for the most part. And then in the fall, we have the e-waste is declared surplus through the same process. It goes away usually in October timeframe. We're just making a little extra room right now up front before the summer projects begin and all the moving goes around. So it's a small list of items. It's
All confidential materials?
nothing stored on anything, and if it's, they're Chromebooks for the most part, so there's nothing stored on them. And in the event that there's any kind of laptops, we have a utility program that does a government wipe of the hard drives rewriting.
Thanks, Ariana. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion carries. I need a motion to approve amendment number 3 to the contract between the Madison Board of Education and Compass Group USA Incorporated by and through its Chartwells division. The original agreement, just wait. The original agreement to which this amendment applies is dated July 1st, 2016. Amendment number 3 extends the term of the agreement for an additional year, consistent with the original agreement language, allowing up to 3 one-year renewals. An investment equal to the previous annual 5-year depreciation expense has been added, and the annual fees under this amendment are $85,683.37 plus 0.0542 per meal equivalent. This represents a 3% increase in the fixed fee and a 0% increase in per meal equivalent rate.
Okay.
Thank you. That's the motion, so moved. Thank you. Second?
Second.
Oh, Kirk.
No.
Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion carries. Thank you, Art.
Thank you.
Any old business? Future agenda items? Meetings and dates of importance are attached. I need a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Bingo, Katie.
Second?
Me.
Okay, we are, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, motion carries, we're adjourned.